My name is Molly Stark Dean, and this is Bogdan. I'm the news nerd you've been looking for to bring you this conversation. We met last week on LinkedIn, and I saw his layoff manifesto. I see layoff manifestos all the time because I work in newsrooms, and I always try to answer those plea for help because I've been laid off several times within my career. And I wanted to help Bogdan because his story felt a lot like my story. It felt so much like my story that I thought Bogdan was a scam. I literally thought that his GoFundMe's were just some sort of money get rich quick scheme, and that this story was so compelling, but it was exactly like my story. So I thought he looked me up and he was trying to take advantage of me. He is 100% real. Bogdan has multiple sclerosis, and we're going to explore Bogdan's experience with chronic illness and how that affects his career in HR and the strategies he uses to manage stress and workplace challenges. I encourage participants to comment and ask questions. It's going to be on a delay, but this is an interactive conversation between networks to celebrate disability pride. So, first off, Bogdan,
Yes.
tell us what happened last year that forced you to break your own HR rule about MS disclosure.
A lot happened last year. In the beginning, it was nice because I actually got a promotion. Actually, not even a month before the new year in December. It felt like a Christmas present just for me to find out 4 months later that it's going to be a mass layoff. And they were kind enough to do that over an email. Everybody woke up with an email saying that we are not needed anymore. And shortly after that, I'm still thinking that might be had been the trigger for me. I ended up in the emergency room on May 1st actually. And the usual story because I was not a stranger to the ER rooms. And they just put me under on IV. He told me I'm dehydrated, I'm having anxiety. Said, okay, that might be the case. I'm sure it's not, but I'm not gonna argue with anyone. Went back home just for me to wait until the second day when I passed out. Went back to the emergency room and I lost my temper. I just started yelling at everyone. Told them this is not anxiety, this is not dehydration. I'm keep telling you for years. I cannot see well. I'm extremely dizzy. I'm walking like a drunk person. Something is wrong with me. If you keep insisting that everything is in my head, just do a CT scan, do an MRI, do whatever you have to prove me that I'm either crazy or something else is going on. So they asked me if I will be fine having an MRI because a lot of people are claustrophobic. I told them whatever it takes to get at the bottom of this, had the MRI and came back to me, told me they think I might have MS. They are not sure, but they found multiple lesions, so they think it's MS. It looks like MS, but they cannot confirm it. So I've been referred to a neurologist. And like I told you, I started laughing. Everybody was looking at me like something was wrong with me. They're like, "Yep, he's crazy." I'm like, "No, I'm relieved finally after all these visits to the emergency room, all the symptoms, all the worries in the world that something is wrong with me and I don't know what. Been trying pills over pills, anti-anxiety medications, and nothing was working. I went and see a neurologist at Rush Hospital, Dr. Sierra Morales, and he asked me to have another set of MRIs with contrast this time to my brain. cervical and lumbar spine. And most of my friends are already aware of this. Some of them are laughing because being uninsured, they quoted me for over $17,000 for three MRIs. I told them, guys, I cannot afford to do that. So I went back to Romania. I'm originally from Romania. Had the MRIs. It was way much cheaper with the flight included and everything else. I also had spinal tap, lumbar puncture. I'm not sure if there is a difference between them, but that actually confirmed the MS because they found something on the cerebrospinal fluid. So I came back to Chicago and another journey started. I had to apply for Medicaid. They denied me in the beginning. I reapplied. I was approved. And in the meantime, I switched neurologist. I was not very happy with the original one. So I went to Milwaukee, Wisconsin and seen another one. He asked me to start taking some pills called Mavenclad. Of course, he tried to do that through the insurance, through Medicaid. They denied. He filed an appeal. They denied the appeal as well. I was with no treatment. I'm still with no treatment. Then I decided I have to find the neurologist that's closer to my house. So I found another one, and he's an amazing gentleman. And he recommended me starting on Ocrevus. And I told him the story. Look, I'm on Medicaid. He said, I know they're not gonna approve it. We still have to try because you're theoretically insured. Medicaid denied it. We had to file an appeal. Got our appeal denied. And at the end, I just called them and asked Medicaid to just drop me as a patient. I don't want to be insured anymore because it only causes me trouble. So my neurologist doctor, again, amazing doctor, amazing human being, Dr. Lenny Cohen, he told me that being uninsured will actually help me because there is a special program that the manufacturer is offering. It's called Genentech Patient Foundation. And because I was unemployed and uninsured, they were willing to give me the drug for free. So the whole process took about 2 months. But when I was about to start, because we fell behind on our mortgage payments and everything, we have to sell the house and move away from Chicago. We ended up in Georgia around Augusta, and I couldn't find any other neurologist closer to my house. I found one in Atlanta, and that's fine. I don't mind driving. So I told her the story, and she said she's going to try to get me on Ocrevus. Spoke with them, and they told me that's perfectly fine. I still qualify, but I have to reapply for it. So now I'm waiting. My current neurologist said she's positive she can get me approved by the middle of next month or the end of next month, the latest. But at the same time, opened me the idea about another treatment, the hematopoietic stem cells transplant that I've been talking to you about, and you gave me the idea to watch the movie, which it was amazing, and I'm encouraging everyone to look it up. And if you guys have the time, it's called Introducing Selma Blair. It pretty much describes the whole treatment, what's happening during the treatment, what are the benefits, what are the risks, and so on. But that that was actually the time when I just decided to pretty much think more about either to disclose or not when I'm applying for a job. Even now, I'm still hanging in a balance between disclosing and not disclosing because I'm still not sure how people, recruiters, hiring managers are going to react because a lot of people are trying to hide it. I tried myself to hide my anxiety for years, and it's not working well. So people are having a hard time. I know it's hard. A lot of people see it as a weakness, but it's not. Asking for help is not a weakness.
Describe what, and neither is having MS as a disability. Describe how having MS is a strength. A lot of MS warriors say MS is a superpower because you have to deal with paperwork, government stuff, legal stuff, medical stuff. Neither of us are doctors. We're not employment lawyers. So, Bogdan, what happened that just pushed you to write that diatribe, which I responded to on LinkedIn?
I was just sad, honestly, because I finally understood what a lot of people are going through. I thought it's gonna be honestly. I was I was not expecting to be a piece of cake and get everything I need in a heartbeat, but not in a million years I would imagine it's such a hassle and a burden. I even tried myself to apply for disability and I got a letter saying that I'm not disabled enough. I'm not sure if this is the exact wording, but it was funny. Basically, it was just saying that I'm not disabled enough. I was fine. But when I realized how many forms and papers you have to fill up and how much research you have to do about everything, what Medicaid will cover or how a certain insurance works, their criteria and so on, was it still feels overwhelming. But it's definitely a superpower, like you mentioned, because you are being somehow forced to do things that you never thought you'd be able to before. So I'm not complaining about that.
As far as the invisibility of MS, as someone with an MS, how have you found it challenging to navigate the workforce when it's an invisible disease?
Oh, it's hard everywhere, honestly, not just at work, because again, that's why people are getting divided. If you disclose having MS or any other invisible disability, I had, even myself, I had a few bad experiences with people saying, "Oh, you don't look disabled," or "You look just fine. I don't think you have anything. I don't think anything is wrong with you," and that's totally fine. I don't have to convince anyone. I know what I'm going through. I don't wish it to anybody in this world, and whatever their opinion is, that's perfectly fine. Everybody is entitled to have an opinion, but especially at work, it's extremely challenging because you have to change your routine. I can say create new habits, get used with taking breaks more often, even though are small breaks, like 5-10 minutes break every 2 to 3 hours. I was doing that. Nobody thought about anything. It was just for me. It was just a walk around the building. It was strange for them because I was not doing that before, but I had to change a lot. I had to shift my focus a little bit and try to decide on whichever task I have to focus more. I made it all about priorities. I'm still able to handle multiple tasks at once, but now I'm just worried. Might be just in my head, but I'm just worried I'm not gonna do it well enough. So if even myself I'm thinking about that, that's why my question is, should we disclose that when we are applying for a job or after we get hired or not really? Because if I'm having second thoughts about it, I can only imagine what a hiring manager or a recruiter might think about it. So
I've asked former bosses when is the best time to disclose, and my former boss told me that he said as early in the process as possible. And the thought of disclosing in a job interview is terrifying. So much more terrifying than just doing a LinkedIn Live with Bogdan is thinking about a job interview, and in the job interview at the end when they say, do you have anything more to add, you kind of want to say it but you don't. So how does the US healthcare system and the Romanian healthcare system differ, and is there a different culture of illness when it comes to your multiple sclerosis?
It's huge, honestly. The whole US system, a lot of people are going to get pretty mad at me. It looks from my point of view that it's working against you somehow. You are not, like I said, I'm not expecting them to give me everything on a silver platter, but at the same time, I should not be punished because I lost my job or I'm not having insurance or I cannot afford to pay for my own insurance. And with Medicaid, they are basically trying to tie up your hands because, like I said, they've done more harm than helping me. Just because I had Medicaid, I had to disclose that I am actually insured, but when I was trying to get any kind of drugs for MS, they were not covered. So that's why I just gave up. And in Romania, the culture and the medical system is very different. They are a lot more helpful, but at the same time, the only trick is, even though I still have my citizenship, you have to be working in the country, in Romania, for at least 6 months in order for you to get whatever you need. If I will be working for at least 6 months in Romania, I will be able to go see a neurologist, ask him, hey, what do you think is the best course of treatment for me? And whatever the neurologist will say, the state will just cover it 100% with no questions because whatever the doctor says in Romania, nobody asks anything about it. If the doctor said this one is the best for you, this is the one that you're gonna get at no cost. Because at the end of the day, that's why we are paying so much taxes, right? You'll think, but not really. And with the culture, honestly, I could say I found a lot of support groups in the US. People are, I think, are a lot, not just by a little, more understanding of disabilities in here. In Romania, it might be because it's a smaller country, different mentality, but it still looks very weird to them. If you're gonna mention something like multiple sclerosis, they're gonna end up thinking, okay, you are totally disabled, you are not even able to feed yourself.
What workplace accommodations do you need that's important for MS, and have you, as an HR representative, given that accommodation?
I think the most important one is time off. If somebody is asking for a day off, you should not even doubt that. If I'm asking for a day off, that's huge. That means I need it. For me personally, I can count on my fingers how many times I asked for a day off, and that was when I was sick like a dog or something extremely bad happened. But if somebody is asking you for a day off, or if they can go home an hour or 2 hours earlier, don't you should not even think about it. Just let that person be. You know the problem, you know the issue, you don't know what they're going through. So I think that's the biggest one.
And have you ever struggled to disclose your diagnosis? What factors do you evaluate when disclosing to people? Especially now that you've disclosed publicly on LinkedIn, do you still feel that urge to kind of keep it hidden?
In the beginning, yes, I try to keep it for myself for a while, and like I said, I realized no, I was ashamed. I must admit, I was ashamed. No idea why. That was my mentality. Again, I thought it's a sign of weakness, and I realized, okay, it's not. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a disease. I never thought it's gonna be me, but we never do until it actually happens. I had no idea what someone with MS can go through and how different could it be from person to person. But here I am, and now honestly, I don't want to hide it anymore. I'm applying for jobs. I had an interview actually 2 days ago, and the gentleman even mentioned at the end, I'm glad you disclosed that you're having a disability. I'm not gonna ask about what kind of disability. Yeah, I know you're not gonna ask that, but I'm still disclosing it because I don't want to hide it anymore. It's not a weakness, it's not a weak point. It's like you say, it's a superpower because we're gonna work a lot harder because we are aware of our issue and we wanna compensate somehow. At least that's how I feel.
And how do you prioritize self care and manage stress when you're working in a demanding role like human resources?
I didn't have the chance to experience much of that, but I'm pretty sure I will just focus on one task at a time and take honestly frequent breaks. Just go for a walk, take your mind off everything, do a little bit of meditation, even though it's gonna be for 5 minutes. It's more than enough, but better than nothing. I know you might have days when you just don't feel like getting out of the bed. I had one like that yesterday. Just woke up with a migraine, didn't go away for anything in the world. I just wanted to sleep, but I couldn't because of the migraine. So I think at least this is the least we can do. Frequent breaks, because if not, our heads are about to explode.
As an HR professional, have you encountered challenges in advocating for disability accommodations in the workplace for other individuals?
Not at all, honestly. I have no complaints. The company that I used to work with, it was amazing. It was a family-owned company from the beginning. When I started working with them almost 7 years ago, and until last year when we merged or we've been bought by another company, we never had an issue. Mostly because the CEO and the owner was an older gentleman and he went through a lot in his life. So he was extremely understanding with everyone. Nothing was too much to ask with him. So I was extremely glad about that. I was lucky enough.
That's great to hear. And how have you approached career growth and development while managing your MS symptoms?
I'm s- I still I'm still having the same goals honestly. I'm still aiming high, even though it's challenging. It's hard to get a job. That's another discussion for another time. It's incredibly hard to get a job. But I'm not gonna change my goals for just because I got MS. It might be requiring me to work a little bit harder, but that's not gonna keep me down. Nothing is gonna change. Same goals.
So, how has your experience with MS impacted your leadership style? Have you become more or less empathetic to certain situations? And what lessons have you learned from navigating this disease?
I felt bad when I got my diagnosis, and at the same time, I felt like I let some people down in the past because I had no idea. I still don't know if they were going through something similar or not, but it just made me thinking, what about if that person that I was trying to punish was actually not, how I call it, lazy? They just had an issue. They had a bad day, they had anxiety, panic attacks, I don't know, any other disease that I was not aware of. And they were the same like me. They were just trying to hide it because they didn't want me to find out. They thought it's gonna make them look weak. And I think that opened my eyes to not judge someone so quick because it happens.
What advice would you give to other HR professionals?
Just be on the lookout for the tiniest signs, the tiniest hints that somebody might be giving you. Because I was giving hints to myself actually about my anxiety and I chose to ignore them. And it's not a good decision. Just be very mindful, don't judge a book by its cover. It might be a lot more than you can even imagine. You have no idea what a specific person can go through on that very moment. So just be very mindful. Don't jump to conclusions. Do an investigations if you have to, but don't jump to conclusions.
And what other advice can you give to people with chronic illnesses who are trying to deal with this professional revolving door of people and people management, and also how they can be empathetic to other individuals? How would you help someone with a chronic illness?
Listen to them first and most. That's the most important part. Don't hide, even though it's a disability, invisible or not, do not hide it. Talk about it, disclose it, find somebody that you can confess to, that you can talk freely. It might be a friend, it might be your spouse, it might be family member, but just talk about it. Don't keep it in because it's gonna eat you from the inside and you're not gonna be able to focus on anything else because you're gonna start overthinking about it, and that's like I said, that's just gonna drain you like a battery.
And what have been the most valuable insights that you've gained from navigating MS, and what influences can you help what your work life balance specifically? What how has that changed?
I have to find a way around my mood and how do I feel in a certain day. That was never the case a few years back. Whatever I had planned, I could just stick with the plan. Now, if it depends on the mood. If I wake up feeling like I'm already drained, I haven't slept for an hour, even though I had 10 hours of sleep, I have to redo my whole schedule. So that was the most important change, and it still is so far.
And do you have any questions for the audience, or do you want to poll the audience on something? What do you want to tell your LinkedIn audience about multiple sclerosis?
I would like to know, understand regarding if someone like myself should disclose their disability or not. I'm very curious about whatever other people think because it's important to me. And at the same time, if you know somebody that needs your help, please don't turn your back on them because they really need it and it means a lot. Even if you just kind of send them a text message from time to time saying hello or just check on them, it means a lot. It might not sound like a lot, but it is. Just the fact that you know somebody cares about you, it's a lot.
And is there what have you seen going back to Romania? Is there that difference in, we were talking about difference in culture, but is there a difference in care? Is there more tension between you and your doctor here in America or in Romania? And how have you navigated that?
I think they are a lot more careful in Romania. They are paying a lot more attention. And here I feel like whenever I have to go to the doctor, they are just not listening to me. They just treat me like just a regular person. And whenever I'm trying to express my concern about something, I just feel like they are trying to get me out of their office. back in Romania, they are listening to you, and I don't know if they are just pretending or they genuinely care, but it makes you feel valuable, honestly, and care for.
Lynn said something actually very insightful. She said, you should go ahead and disclose your condition because they will know from your social media presence. So we both have disclosures open on our social media. Do you think it looks like you're trying to hide something if you don't bring it up in a job interview, but if you simply Google either of us, you would see a diagnosis?
It might be, again, depending from whoever you are talking with or you are interviewing with, they might see it like you are trying to hide it from them. That you are afraid of taking on the job because you might not be capable of doing it. But yes, no. Like I said, we both have MS, was diagnosed last year in May. I know for a fact that I have it for a much longer time than a year, but my official diagnosis was on May 4th of 2022.
And tell me about that feeling of being diagnosed. You talk about, and this is Disability Pride Month. It's very the tail end of Disability Pride Month. But you said you were laughing and relieved that you were diagnosed with MS. And I'm sure lots of people with MS have the same feeling of, oh, I'm not crazy. This is an actual disease that is 100% medically confirmed.
Exactly, because like I said, I found out and I started laughing. Everybody thought I'm crazy. And I told them the reason I'm laughing is that after going to the hospital for 3 years, 4 years, or whatever, and you will keep trying to treatment for anxiety. You took so much blood out of my body just to run some blood work. And you were keep telling me that nothing is wrong with me. I had so many infusions just to hydrate myself. I told you it's not this. You keep telling me no, nothing else is wrong with you. My body was telling the opposite. My body was keep trying to give me warnings. No, something is wrong. Something is wrong. And finally, when I got the news, you're like, okay, something is actually wrong with you. You got this. I felt like a tension was released all of a sudden. I knew it's bad news, but at the same time, it felt so good. It was like, okay, I'm not going crazy. Something is actually wrong with me, even though 10, 15, 20 doctors were keep telling me that nothing is wrong with me. I've been referred to a psychologist, to a psychiatrist, again, put on anti anxiety meds. I'm not saying it didn't help again. I know I'm an anxious person, but something else was going on. And for a person to go through this for years, it feels like a nightmare that you cannot wake up from. So when you finally hear the news, something is wrong with you, and you get a diagnosis, you feel so relieved. Even though, like I said, it's extremely bad news, it felt so good.
And what did you know about MS beforehand when you were told? And I know the story because we've talked before. When you were told you had MS, you were in a car and you were told on the phone, and you felt like it wasn't the correct venue on the phone to be told that you had an MS diagnosis. But what did you know about MS beforehand?
I didn't know much. I know it's an autoimmune disease and it can affect parts of your body. But after I did a little bit of research, it became I can say I become obsessed with it. I was like, this is bad, but it's fascinating at the same time. And that's the scariest thing about MS, at least for me. You never know how you're gonna feel, not even an hour from now, but you cannot make plans 5 years from now because you don't know if a lesion might just decide to show up on some part of your brain or on some part of your spine and affect your speech, affect your motor skills, and so on. But yes, I when I got the confirmation about my MS, it was via phone. and I felt terrible. I start crying. For the first time in a very long time, I start crying because I've been told that I should not be driving. It's like, no, I've been driving since I was 18, since I got my driver license with no issues. Now all of a sudden, they're telling me I should not be able to drive. I have MS, and who knows what's next. But I got over that.
And as far as the unpredictability of all autoimmune diseases, but especially MS, what is how do you feel about trusting yourself? So, keeping appointments, making sure you're going to work. Is there a way that you can manage your disease so that you can trust yourself, say yes to a future event?
I have notes and alarms and calendar meetings all over just to be double sure of everything. I'm I can say I'm pretty good at it so far. I remember most of the important things. I cannot say I'm remembering from the top of my head everything, but my memory is still very good. If I'm having a good day, if I'm having a bad day, my brain will be foggy and I'll have to look on my phone. Okay, let me check. What am I supposed to do today? Do I have something scheduled that I forgot about it? But so far, manageable. Honestly, that's unpredictability that you talked about earlier. That's why I actually choose, and I would love to go ahead have the hematopoietic stem cell transplant because it's for me.
I was so surprised by you when I saw introducing Selma Blair. So basically, what happens is they delete your immune system so you can build it back up, and it's terrifying. So that movie, I introducing Selma Blair, that movie terrified me, and I said, "Okay, watch this, Bogdan, and if you still want to do it, go to you're going to another country to get stem cell treatment, right? I know there's a trend right now for people going to other countries to avoid concert fees. So they would go to a Taylor Swift concert in another country because it's
Mhm.
easier than paying for the fees in this country. So why do you think um, are what country are you looking for right now to get this stem cell treatment? And again, more
German.
power to you after watching that movie and still
Mhm.
being brave enough to say yes, I'm going to go and get that stem cell treatment.
Yep, I'm planning on going to Germany. Honestly, in Frankfurt, there are a lot of countries offering it, including US. But again, because of the cost in here, you have to either win the lottery or pray to God that something happens and you find the bag full of money in front of your house. So far it should be Germany and it's still expensive. But I'm willing to do that and willing to take the risk because I know what a mess can look like 10, 20 years from now, a year from now, even a month from now. If you are being offered that chance to be able to regain the control of your life, I'm willing to take it because I thought about it. Every single time you are getting out of the house, there's a chance you might just get hit by a car or, God forbid, what else. So there is always a chance for you to for something bad to happen to you. If something bad is going to happen while you are walking your dog, is going to happen the same with this treatment. But at least you have a pretty big chance of regaining control of your life. And honestly, I'm more than willing to take that instead of wondering every single day when I woke up, how am I going to feel today? Or what's gonna happen in a year from now? Or even just the thought of having to handle the whole process to get access to medication is just terrifying. So there are a lot of pros on this. It's scary, but
And how about, I know that you had a trip to Mexico and did the good old American tradition of going to Mexico for medical.
I've been 3 times actually and had, they are called mesenchymal stem cells.
Yeah.
They are being extracted from placenta from newborns, and of course they are given to you through an infusion packed with vitamins B6 and minerals, B6, B12 complex actually, zinc and so on, and it helps a lot, but only for a certain period of time. After that, you have to go. That's the trick. You have to go back for another round of treatment, and it's not really cheap. It's a few $1,000s every time. So it's. I was at a point where I was like, okay, I cannot afford that anymore, even with the help from the people. What I'm looking for now, and I'm hoping for, it's a permanent fix. Do it once, and you are done. Instead of going every 3 to 6 months and still spend a lot of money. This for me looks like the perfect. I haven't said the safest. Might not be the safest, but it's still the best chance you got.
And as far as workplace disclosure goes, have you, and I know that you've been diagnosed since you've been laid off, correct? So
Yes.
is there, have you disclosed in a job interview, and has that been, what has the response to that been?
In the beginning, I didn't, but after I got in touch with the National Society of MS, which I have huge respect for, I got into a few support groups and I started disclosing it every single time. And again, because I was refused, so many denied, declined, whatever, so many times before when applying for a job. I'm not sure now it's happening because on top of everything I'm disclosing my MS or not really. I hope not, but again, there is no way for me to find out. I just hope it doesn't affect me in any way.
And have you had any what are your baseline symptoms if you go through? If you said you're fatigued, is that just mostly fatigue? And by the way, to everybody, the non MS warriors in the live stream, fatigue is like a Bugs Bunny anvil is dropped on your head and you can't get out of bed. It's not tired. It's not, oh, I haven't had my cup of coffee. It's, I can barely move. So tell me about fatigue and the other symptoms that can affect your career.
Fatigue, that's the number one because I have days when I wake up, I'm having a big cup of coffee, and I can go back to sleep in less than half a minute and sleep for another few hours. But beside that, I'm having headaches, I think, almost daily. Sometimes they are turning into migraines, balance issues, not too bad, but noticeable. If I notice myself, I'm pretty sure other people can notice my when I'm walking. I'm a little bit like in an L shape, like a snake, and I think my anxiety got worse. I spoke with a neurologist about it, and she said I'm perfectly right because one of the lesion is on the region of my brain that affects these kind of things like anxiety, panic attacks, and so on.
And do your symptoms affect your confidence as a work professional? We are being streamed on LinkedIn, so this
Nope,
would help. So your confidence is still
the
up there,
same.
or yeah,
Yes,
is that because when you were diagnosed, you said that it was a great day in your life
yeah,
because You were very happy that all of the things you had been saying about all of your symptoms were confirmed. So, does that help you in your workplace confidence?
A lot. It actually boosted my confidence. My confidence was going down because I started doubting myself. We were talking earlier, everybody was telling me that I'm perfectly fine, healthy, and when they actually told me I'm having a problem, my confidence just went back up because I realized there's nothing wrong with me. At least not what I thought it is. I'm not going nuts because that was my thought. Like, okay, I'm almost 30 years old and I'm losing it. That's it. Everybody's saying I'm fine, but I don't feel like it. So it actually helped with my confidence.
So, you said you were diagnosed with anxiety first. So, did that kind of color the diagnosis to MS in the fact that when you were being diagnosed, they kept on telling you, no, no, you're just being anxious?
Oh, yes. From the moment you are disclosing you are having anxiety, they have your records. Anyway, everything that's going to happen from that time, it's gonna be blamed on anxiety. You cannot walk straight, it's from anxiety. You are having a headache, it's from anxiety. You just passed out, it's definitely anxiety. So that was, I think that made my diagnosis even harder because I was already on pills for anxiety and everybody just thought I'm just having a panic attack or an anxiety attack, so on.
And as far as disclosure, let's talk about the fact that when you have MS and you're closing, you think, oh, I'm kind of letting people down, right? So you can't say in future events, oh, there. Is there any sort of anxiety that you feel when you schedule events in the future? Say like a live stream that doesn't work?
It is. I'm getting very nervous, but at the same time, I'm always preparing for the worst and while I'm hoping for the best. That's I think that's gonna be my motto from now on. But I always have a plan. But always hoping for the best. Hopefully everything is gonna go.
A couple in Chicago, and then you moved to Georgia. Have you gone to any support groups in Georgia, or is most of your support come from online in your natural HR habitat of LinkedIn?
Not yet. Haven't found a group yet. Honestly, I didn't have the time to look for one in Chicago. I've been to the first one that was closer to my house. I was not too happy about the whole vibe in there, so I went to another one a little bit far away from my house, but it was worth it because people were just amazing. And right now, I'm still having one session a month with a support group. Got the idea from the National MS Association, and it's every second Wednesday of the month. And they are, again, extremely helpful, extremely nice people, always willing to listen, always willing to help.
And is that you? Is it in person, or is
It's
it?
online.
It's an
That's
online.
the best part.
Yeah. Have you? Do you reevaluate when you get a job in HR and someone tells you I need to work from home? Are you going to reevaluate because of your experience how you respond to that?
I'm gonna have to go based on company's rules. If they're gonna tell me it's up to me, yes, I will look at it differently. If I'm not allowed to do that, I won't be able to change it.
Yeah, you
But
can
yes, I will.
change company policy, but you can put in your 2 cents
Oh yes,
of
oh
yeah.
yes. I'll always be an advocate, and especially now that I know how it is and how it feels. I'll be. I hope I'll be a good advocate.
And we've talked before about the atmosphere of support groups being negative. Have you found a positive support group other than the people you met on LinkedIn who have reached out and talked to you?
Yes, the one that I'm attending right now, the online one, it's extremely helpful. I only had a bad experience with the first one. I went in there willing to share my experience, share my thoughts, and then just talk about our days. But everybody was just talking about how awful it is to live with MS. And I knew from the beginning that's not for me. I'm not going in a certain place, but even here, I'm here to talk about it, not here just to complain about how awful it is. If people want to know that, they can look it up. Nobody will be able to fully understand that, even my own family. They cannot know for sure what am I going through. They can only imagine, which I totally get it because I never thought I'm gonna be able to understand somebody who has MS, and at the same time, like right now, I'm not able to understand someone going through a different disease. Either they are a little bit challenged physically or emotionally. I can just imagine and do my best to guess.
And as far as if you were going to run a support group, what would be the first thing that you would want everybody to know?
To let them know that there is no shame in talking about your disability at all.
And why has it been so long that people have been sort of, I don't want to say in the closet, I kind of want to do that, but why are they keeping their diseases secret?
Because they are not sure at how people will going to react when they find out about it. It might change the whole relationship between them, so they're just trying to keep it well hidden. That's what I'm thinking. That's just my opinion. I might be wrong, but for me, that was it.
Because you felt pressure to disclose or not disclose, especially because you work in HR. It's been probably a struggle of push and pull of, well, I know if I was on the other side of the table. So you know both of the sides of that interview table because you work in HR. Do
Now I
you
do.
feel like, well, now you do. Do you feel like your empathy has grown, or do you think like, oh, well, pre-diagnosis, I would have totally understood?
No, it definitely helped me be more empathic towards other persons because, again, I know how it is. I was feeling, I had feelings before, but now they are way deeper. I feel like I'm having a deeper connection with people. I can connect with them to a different level, even though, yeah, of course, they are not going through the same as me, but I have a better chance of understanding what they're experiencing.
Yeah, and multiple sclerosis is a snowflake disease, meaning every single person who has MS has a different brand of MS, correct?
Yeah.
So, are there days where you feel symptoms where you're just like, is this MS or is it something different?
Oh, yes. Since I got the diagnosis, every single thing that happens to me always get me thinking, is this from the MS or it just happens because? Is the headache because of MS or it's just a headache? So everything is now up for debate, but I'm trying not to blame everything on MS.
Well, because you, I don't know if you've seen this, but doctors sometimes will just, especially primary care doctors, they will just say, oh, talk to your neurologist. It's probably due to MS. as you said, when you were diagnosed with
Anxiety.
anxiety, yeah, they tried to ascribe everything to anxiety because they
Yep.
already had a concrete diagnosis. So, in terms of MS and the workplace, it's summertime. It is the hottest month that it's ever been. How have
Hmm.
you been dealing with the heat? I know that MS is very heat sensitive.
I'm trying to stay inside, away from the sun as much as I can. My neurologist was laughing when I saw her 2 weeks ago. She was keep telling me to up my dose of vitamin D3 because she was asking me, so you are staying away from the sun? I sure do because we have days when we get over 100 degrees, so I'm out of there. It's bad enough without the heat from outside. I'm just cranking up the AC inside and I still feel like I'm a bit hot, but it's not that bad. It'll pass.
When I heard you moved from, we're going to talk about location. So I'm here in Brooklyn, and you lived in Chicago when you were diagnosed, and then you moved to Georgia. And in
Yes.
Georgia, it's so much hotter, and I just was baffled that you would move to a hotter climate. So why did you move?
Honestly, we were looking for a cheaper place because, like I said, we had to sell the house, pay the bank, and so on. So we were researching. We had a few options between the Carolinas or Georgia. We found a reasonable place for a price that we could afford, and we just went for it. I know I used to like the heat, not that much anymore, but as long as I'm trying to stay inside as much as I can handle it.
And anybody on any platform that has any questions, they can ask it at any time. I just want to make that out there that they could ask it of Bogdan and how he's dealing with MS as a young professional. So he is in his prime earning years. And do you feel like you're going through stem cell treatment? Do you think that's going to rob you of your most profitable area in your career?
No, honestly, I don't. I'm just I just have a lot of hope in it. If you're talking about the hematopoietic ones, I just like I said, it looks like it's a lifeline, and I know a lot of people are talking about it being experimental and so on, dangerous, but I'm willing to risk it. Honestly, if there's a chance to get back in time while rebooting my immune system, I'll take that chance. Because it's like somebody's asking me, do you wanna go and be, I don't know, like you were a few years ago? Like, yes, please. You know that there is a certain risk. That's fine. So we'll see.
And as far as honesty is concerned, do you feel like you're being sneaky or dishonest when you're not disclosing all the time? I feel like I have to remind people constantly, oh, MS is a thing. We need to talk about it. I'm not feeling well today. You have to do that daily check in with yourself to make
Mhm.
sure that you're functioning. Is there some sort of like um that was fun. That was is there like a conversation with your doctor you need to have about different lesions and what they mean every time you go to the doctor?
Oh,
And,
yes.
and to the audience, a lesion is just like a hole in your brain. So our brains are very resilient organs, and they can lose connectivity and regain it back because it's the best organ in the body as far as
I agree. I agree. Now, having a mess, I agree. If you asked me before, I don't think it's that important. Our heart is more important. So,
yeah, but
but
your
yes.
heart can't regenerate like the brain or the liver can. We have only
Oh,
two organs that can just come back. Although I think skin. Oh, both of us are not doctors, so we won't go.
say yes. You asked me about the appointments with the neurologist every single time. When I'm having an MRI, I'm going like fingers crossed, no lesions, no lesions. And most of the time I'm wrong because I'm getting bad news. And I'm, like I said, I'm worried about what part of the brain will be affected. In the beginning, I was trying to look on the MRIs myself. I still have all the discs. And now, because the neurologist explained me what to look for, I have a vague idea. I don't know what this area is responsible for, but based on my symptoms, I can guess. So I, I'm trying to understand my own brain and the lesions. But that's the main thing when I'm going to the neurologist with the new MRI. I'm just hoping for good news. It's always a hassle.
To make you feel better, even the best MS doctors lean on radiologists to tell them what
Oh,
the brain
yes.
is telling them. And as far as MRIs and talking to neurologists, do you have MS specific neurologists, or are they just general practice neurologists?
Yes, no. They are the neurologist that I'm seeing right now. She's working for Atlanta, in Atlanta, at Atlanta Neuroscience Institute. They used to be a multiple sclerosis center. She's specialized in MS. She just moved actually in the same. She has the same time like with me. She moved from Virginia in Georgia just in May. I am one of her first patients in here. But
Oh,
she's amazing. She's always taking the time. The first time actually, I spent close to 2 hours in the office with her because I asked her a lot of questions. I went with a listing.
and as far as work life balance, have you? I know that having MS is a full time job. Can you explain that?
Yes, most definitely, because you have to make sure you are up to date with. I can see first and most. I'm looking my for at least myself. I'm always looking to see about the medications available for MS. They are working on something on a cure. We are closer to a cure. At the same time, again, depending on the insurance you're on, it's unbelievable how hard it is to just figure out what it's actually covered, what's not, how often you're gonna have to go for an MRI because based on your previous MRI, your neurologist will tell you that okay, I think you are fine. You can wait another 6 months. For me, 2 times it happened so far. They asked me to repeat it at 3 months. So you are constantly worrying about MRIs, medication, insurance, neurologists, because you have to schedule appointments with them in advance. You cannot just go into their office or call and make an appointment for tomorrow. So you have to take a lot of things into consideration.
And thinking of chronic illness as a full time job, part of that full time job is the most difficult for you.
For me, it was the insurance, honestly. Medicaid just drained all the energy out of me. That's another reason I just decided, oh, you know what, I give up. It's especially mentally challenging. It's unbelievable. Even my doctor's office, the assistant, I was asking her, hey, do you have any news? Because we filed an appeal. And she told me, look, I swear I do not have a way. They don't have a phone number. They don't have an email. The only way for me to get in touch with them is through fax. I'm sending them a fax daily, every single day. When I'm coming to the office, I'm sending them a fax asking for updates. No answer yet. So as soon as I hear something, I'm gonna get in touch with you. So that was just unbelievably stressful for me. Always waiting to get news.
Is your after your diagnosis, are you applying to different jobs, making sure that the jobs have health care? Are you, does it totally change what your career trajectory is going, or are you just applying to the same type of positions?
The same type of positions actually, and some, because I thought, okay, might be I can find something in a different field. I'm perfectly comfortable with that, as long as I'm gonna get paid enough to be able to live, like pay bills and get some food, because I encounter a lot of jobs starting at $11 per hour. Like this is insane. Nobody's able to live on that. But
And so you're playing. Are you applying to less freelance or contract opportunities that don't have health insurance connected to it?
yes, whatever I can find, contract, independent contractor, W2 part time, temporary, and so on. I just have to go back and start somewhere.
And is there any sort of hesitation? I know that you did one of those long. It wasn't actually that long. There has been longer. When you got laid off, and being laid off is hard enough. How close to the layoff and the diagnosis were? How close? Give me a timeline of that.
Laid off in April last year, got diagnosed on May 4th, so extremely close. That's why I'm thinking the layoff just triggered maybe another lesion, a flare up to develop, and that was my sign. Go to the emergency room. This is the time you're gonna get your diagnosis.
And tell me about the emergency room. Did you? How many times were you in the ER?
I I lost track honestly. It was not far from my house. I used to have uh, a rush in a suburb close to me called Oak Park. So it was like 10, 15 minutes away from me. That was my lifeline. I even called 911 a few times. They got me to the hospital. Exactly the same story every single time. Dehydration or panic attacks. Once they told me my blood sugar was extremely low. But other than that, no one ever thought about getting an MRI or a CT scan. They were at best doing an EKG, checking my heart, and I was being discharged 2, 3 hours later.
And when it comes to managing your career, how how long on this timeline we're creating? How long between your diagnosis and your public disclosure on LinkedIn?
Didn't took much, honestly. I decided pretty fast that I'd have nothing to hide because I thought about every single way of going ahead with this, and I realized, okay, I have nothing to lose. Whoever is gonna try to stick up with me, I know they're gonna be for real next to me, not because of any other reason. So why hide it? It's not something like that I choose. I'm not a gambling addict or whatever. It's just happening that you have no control. I would like to, but
Do you feel like being an MS warrior, do you feel like that's part of your personality now? Where have you always been an open, honest person, or did MS kind of force you into it?
about honesty, yes, always. But I was not open like a book before. I was trying to keep a few things to myself. Like I mentioned, the anxiety, thinking sign of weakness, gonna cause issues with my workplace, but not anymore. I realized if I can handle this, I have nothing to hide. And again, not our fault. It happens. The chances are very slim, especially for men, but hey, it happened. We cannot change that. We have to do whatever we can to go on with our lives.
And in terms of your home country of Romania, right? Are Americans more open about their diagnoses, or do you feel like Romanians are more open and honest?
No, Americans are way more open, honest. Back in Romania, like I said, if you mention something about disability, they gonna think the next second something it's extremely wrong with you. So People are trying to hide it as much as they can back in Romania.
And when you disclosed, did you find any pushback from people telling you that you should not be doing what you're doing?
Not really. I spoke with a few recruiters and they didn't say it straight to my face that I should hold back on disclosure, but they gave me hints. And I told them I'm not gonna hide that. It's who I am. I'm not gonna be able to hide it forever. I might need a day off. I might need to go see my neurologist. I might need an MRI. I'm gonna have to ask a day off. And I'm not willing to lie about why I need a day off. Because they're gonna think I just wanna go and party, go to a vacation for a few days. I'm not gonna do that.
When you said you can feel from the recruiters that there was some pushback, but not direct pushback, what do you mean by that?
I asked them, "What's your opinion on this?" I was open with them. Like, well, it's based on everybody's personality. Depends on who's reading your resume. Some of us are very open-minded, while some of us, not really. They might be a little bit hesitant. I told her, okay, I got it. She told me, I'm not saying you should not disclose it. I told her, at the same time, you're not telling me to disclose it. So I can read between lines.
So we're both on LinkedIn right now, and we met on LinkedIn. I am in marketing. And so in marketing, there's goals. What is your main goal in terms of doing this interview with me?
Honestly, bring awareness to people about, of course, and I cannot lie, multiple sclerosis first and most, but every single other disability, either it's visible or invisible. And at the same time, try to raise money and go get the treatment. Selma Blair actually helped with the movie. I
Yeah.
realized it can happen.
And Selma Blair, and if anybody has ever seen this movie, it's called Introducing Selma Blair. It's all about stem cell treatment. And Bogdan here thinks it's a good idea even after watching the movie. There was no part in watching that movie that made you feel like maybe this treatment isn't right for me.
Not at all, honestly, because I did a lot of research before I took the decision. I spoke with a few doctors that they are doing it for quite a few years already. I know the risks, I know the pains that you have to go through, but I still think it's worth it.
Um, are there any other treatments that you've been on? I know you said you went to Mexico to get treatment.
Yes.
What kind of
Yes.
treatments were those?
Infusions with mesenchymal stem cells, the ones that I mentioned, they are getting them from the umbilical cord, from the placenta of the newborn babies, and they they are working well. You can feel the difference, but only for a short period of time. For me, it was 3, 4 months the most, and then everything was back to normal. Migraine, sleepiness, tiredness, and so on. So I don't think it's a good fix, and it might be worth it if you have a lot of money and you can afford to go 3, 4, 5 times a year. But other than that, I don't think it's worth it, honestly.
And is there any sort of other treatments? Like, did you get any steroid treatments for flare ups or anything like that?
Once, yes, I
The
got
Medrol. Yeah.
yes the solomedrol,
Yeah.
an infusion with solomedrol, and I thought I'm going to die. I felt worse than before. I was throwing up, I couldn't stand up, and so on. But it went away. Took a few hours, but never felt that bad in my whole life. And I told the nurse, I thought this is supposed to make me feel better. I'm feeling so much worse. She said, yes, it's a very powerful corticosteroid. And I had no idea what a corticosteroid is. So I asked, what is a corticosteroid? And she asked me, do you know about prednisone? I was like, yes. Well, this is prednisone on steroids. I was like, okay, I got it. It's much stronger. She's like,
The
yes.
steroid on steroid.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
is there, so you had only one infusion and you just didn't respond well to it?
Yep.
It
That was
wasn't
it.
a series of infusions for a. What does a flare up look like for you?
Oh gosh, I couldn't get out of the bed. I just couldn't. The whole room is was spinning with me. I couldn't see. I mean, I was able to see, but double. I was looking at my finger and I could see two fingers. The room was spinning with me like I was drinking for at least 3 4 hours straight. So I just decided to stay in bed. And I thought, okay, it's gonna go away. Not really. I had to call my doctor in Chicago, Dr. Sierra, and I went ahead the infusion, which I'm glad I did, but at that moment I was like, this was the worst idea I ever had.
And as far as the stem cell treatments, that's very expensive, correct?
Yes, this. That's why I started the GoFundMe, and I already had a few people jumping in to help, but I'm hoping for the best. I want to keep everybody updated. I'm not Selma Blair to make a movie about it, but I would love to keep everyone updated, send them pictures, videos, keep them in the loop. Whenever I can, maybe do another live, maybe even from the, if possible, from the hospital. Let them see how it looks like, how it feels like. I would love to.
So you just want to get your story out there so that people know what people with MS are going through. Invisible diseases are equally as challenging as visible ones. As you know, trying to explain all the time that you have a disease, how often do you have to go? You said even you have to remind them, oh, by the way, I can't come because of feeling like I can't get out of bed.
Yep. My dad had a very hard time when I told him about the diagnosis. He was keep telling me, no, this is wrong, this is wrong. And I told him, look, it's not just one neurologist that confirmed the diagnosis, as multiple ones, at least three of them. And when I tried to explain him what it feels like, it's like, it cannot be that bad. You're just dizzy. Like, no, I'm not just dizzy. I cannot walk or I cannot get out of the bed. I'm having a migraine. Like, yeah, I'm getting those too. Not daily, not the way I'm getting them. So I'm not sure if even now he fully understood. Because, like I said, I'm not blaming him because I know it's hard to believe something that you never experienced, and I'm hoping you never experience.
When three neurologists in several different countries tell you, oh, by the way, your are all dirty. Your brain scan says, of course, you have MS. You had a spinal tap. It's super clear that you have MS. And what can you tell your family that will prove, oh, by the way, I'm not going to be able to travel for something or go to something because you can't get out of bed?
I told them from the beginning, look, this is gonna change the way I'm doing things from now on. Again, my mom, she was really understanding. My dad, he's a little bit more stubborn, but he finally understood. Because I got to a point when I had to not yell at him, but talk a bit louder to make myself clear. I told him, listen, if I'm telling you I cannot do this, it's because I know my body and I know when to put a stop on something. This is one of those days, or this is one of those moments. If something will change, I will let you know. Other than that, don't try to convince me otherwise. You cannot know my body better than myself. It was a moment of silence, but he understood. To him, it's not that I'm having bad intention, it's just I can't. If I'm saying I can, I'm not saying I don't want to. I just can't. There's a huge difference.
So, pre diagnosis, were you going to Dr. Google? Were you asking AI? Were you trying to find anything when that would explain
Yes.
your symptom? Did you pre-diagnose yourself before diagnosing, or were you did MS not even come into your
N-
life until they said it over the phone?
Never thought about it. I was Googling my symptoms, of course, like everybody else. Dr. Google was telling me the same thing. It's
Most
just your
popular doctor
anxiety.
in America is Dr.
Don't worry, it's just your anxiety. You just had a panic attack. You have double vision. That's fine. It happens. It's from the anxiety. I'm like, oh, okay. It's what Google says too. So I guess I'm wrong. The doctors are right. I'm just anxious. My blood work looks fine. My heart looks fine. Nobody ever thought it might be actually coming. They were right. It comes from the brain, but it's not just anxiety.
Where where can people, how can everybody here help you? What is, I know you have two GoFundMe's because you keep on which is one of the reasons why I was just like, what is this Bogdan guy all about? But how can the LinkedIn community help you other than us all understanding and hearing your story? What's the call to action here?
Just I have a GoFundMe link page fundraiser. Still not sure how to call it. Just share it with your friends. I'm not asking anyone to go ahead and donate 5,000 or $10,000. Even $5, like I was talking a bit earlier on LinkedIn, it might not sound like a lot, but it can make a huge difference. I have close to 11,000 people following me. If you multiply that by five, it's a lot of money. I know as a single person, it's hard to achieve something, but I've seen the power of a community before, and I know it's amazing. I had a connection friend on LinkedIn. She was diagnosed with cancer, and she was able to raise the money needed for surgeries and so on because she ran into the same issue. She was insured actually, but her insurance company was denying pretty much every treatment that her doctor was recommending. So I know the power of a community.
I You said you have a friend with cancer. I never told you this story, but the first person I met with MS told me that people with cancer have it better than people with MS because at least people with cancer get to die from the pain. That is the first person I met with MS. So I didn't know what was going on. I was told by local doctors and friends of mine to go talk to this man because he was the only one they knew. And do you have, and it's a snowflake disease, it's always different. Do you have any sort of friends or contacts with MS that you can reach out to?
Yes, I have quite a few actually of friends. Most of them I know them from LinkedIn. I met them on LinkedIn. Never had the chance to meet one in person, but we are in touch with each other. We are supporting each other, cheer for each other, and so on. Because it's very different when you're talking with someone that has an idea what you are going through. Because, like you said, we are all different. It's a different disease for everyone, but they can relate in a certain way. They can feel for you. So they know if I'm saying, hey, I'm not in the mood to talk today. Can we talk another day? They are perfectly fine. No questions asked. That's it. Because for my friends, sometimes they're like, why don't you want to go out? Like, I don't feel well. Oh, come on. Like, no, honestly, I don't feel well. And I'm having a hard time explaining myself. And I feel bad sometimes because I'm letting my friends down. But with someone with MS, like I said, if I'm saying, okay, can we do this another time? The answer is, of course. That's it. End of story. No questions. No, nothing.
So, as far as all of our LinkedIn followers here on the stream, what advice can you give someone who has been recently diagnosed?
Open up. Like we were talking the other day. Open up. Talk with one single person. It's enough. You don't have to share your story like I did. If you prefer to, go ahead. But first, open yourself to somebody, your spouse, your mom, family, friends, coworker, whatever feels comfortable for you. Go ahead and talk about it. Don't let it eat you from the inside. It's hard, it's easy to say, but hard to do. And I know, I, I really get it. But you have to talk about it. You have to let it out.
And actually, that was Mad Max Fury Road, my cat who just went by, and he is my
Mhm.
live producer telling me to wrap it up because we've been talking for almost 2 hours. I wanted
Gosh,
to leave extra room so that everybody could get in on the live stream. It's been Molly Starkdean and Bogdan. We're going to be on LinkedIn. We're always responding to messages. We should do another live stream next month to revisit and talk about how your MS and your struggles have progressed until next month.
sounds good to me.
Bye, guys. This is a live stream. This is a live stream habit. I'm sorry, Max. It's the end. That's what he's saying. He's saying it's the end. Thank you so much, everybody who came in and watched live.
Thank you all.
Goodbye. Exactly, Paula. Bye.
Bye bye.